Welcome to Entertainment Plus. I'm Jan Waldman, and my guests today are Lori and Caroline Hart. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Hi.
Caroline and Lori are filmmakers, producers, and we're going to talk about their new movie that's coming out, Status Unknown. So, ladies, I am so excited to have you here today. It's
We're
wonderful.
excited to be here.
It's great to be here.
Okay, let's start with how the film came about. Lori, would you like to start? Or?
Sure. I'd start. Well, first of all, we're a binational couple. Caroline's from England, and we met online back in 2005. So we never knew. I mean, you never know where your heart's going to take you. You know, we found each other online, and it was like people didn't think, oh, you're 3,500 miles apart. How are you going to make this relationship
Exactly.
work? But we made it work, but with a lot of difficulties in between.
It was a crazy time when we first met because obviously the distance, and back then there wasn't Facebook and there wasn't video calling and all that sort of thing, and obviously there's 5 hours difference between here and England, so it'd be early in the morning. I'd be calling Laurie, it'd be like the middle of the night, or she'd get home from work and then it's the middle of the night for me, and we'd be on the phone talking.
And you have families. Each of you have children, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
So that complicates things too, just for timing and travel and whatnot.
Very first time I flew from England, and that was actually October the 4th in 2005. That was pretty incredible. Like, I made the decision that we'd been talking all that time that, okay, now I'm going to come over to actually see Laurie, and we met at Logan International Airport. That was the first place that we ever met.
But it was a terminal that it was this was our first date was at the terminal, but it's the terminal that caused us so many problems.
Okay, you first met.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's love at first sight because you'd already been talking, but you knew you were in love.
So many relationships start where they meet someone out and they make contact and there's not as much conversation, but mainly all us getting to know one another is by phone. So that's, you know, something that we did, and then like Caroline said, she made a decision that, okay, I'm actually going to fly to Boston to be together.
And I was here for 8 days. That was the initial time we spent together, and then after all that time we just knew that was it. I mean, we already knew by talking to each other. We built up such a strong relationship. We knew so much about each other because we spent literally hours talking.
Hours.
So then when we spent those 8 days together, it was just boom, that was it. We knew.
When did you get married?
It was 2006. After that particular time, when we separated for the first time, and it was really like heartbreaking.
After the first 8 days?
Yes, we didn't want to be apart, so we just knew that we had to make a change. And then next, Laurie came over.
So you went to
But
London.
I went to England. And just to see, I mean, I had never been out of the country before. I had to get a passport and, you know, do that. But it was seeing how life was, you know, in England, and I was there, and then it was, again, having to come back by myself.
Now, when did marriage become legal between same-sex marriages in Massachusetts? They were the first state to do this.
It was in 2004.
And legal in England?
Yes, it was legal in England, but only as civil partnerships, not as actual marriage at that point. So we started doing a bi-weekly flying, because we had the two families and we didn't want to give one preference over the other, so we started this like horrendous flying every 2 weeks.
They probably stopped the frequent flyer mile program
for
after you.
18 months. For 18 months, we traveled back and forth every 2 weeks for 18 months.
Yeah, until we could establish where we were going to go, you know, with the families and how it was all going to fall together. And then, but in that time, we did get married in both America and England.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah. So you had the rights within each country, but just within each country.
Yes.
As you soon found out, or you.
Yes, absolutely.
So tell us some of the problems you encountered.
Well, the big problem was, even though Massachusetts was the first state to legalize same-sex marriage, the international airport is run by the federal government. Every time we'd come through customs together, our marriage wasn't recognized. And that's why, I mean, if I would have married a a man from England, I would have started already the process of a green card. I mean, right when we first got married. But because the marriage wasn't recognized, I could never sponsor Caroline for a green card. I could have went to England to live there, but the thing is, my mother had already passed away, and then my father, I mean, he was alone. They were married for almost 40 years.
Couldn't leave him.
I was mainly with him. I mean, he had some medical issues at the time. After we, did get married, he ended up having, it was a year later, I think, after we got married, almost 2 years later, a year later, he had a heart attack, and then he had a stroke a few weeks later.
So he was very debilitated.
So I was like his healthcare proxy, and for Status Unknown, which we wrote the film about, this one particular incident, every time we kept on traveling back and forth.
I would be coming into Logan, and then I would get questioned, first of all, at the desk when you first come through, and they say, oh, so why are you here in the country? I'd say, because I'm married to an American, and then they say, so why are they not sponsoring you? Well, because it's a woman, and you're spending too much time here. And so they'd look at the passport, and they'd say, I'm going to send you down to the office. And then I'd have to go through and, have an interrogation and go through all the details. I'd have to show all sorts of paperwork. And it didn't matter that we had a marriage license from Massachusetts, where obviously Logan is situated. Didn't
because
count.
It was federal.
Yes,
that
didn't count for anything.
Now, can you speak to a little bit about DOMA? Just explain what that is, one of you.
Well, DOMA is the Defensive Marriage Act, and it was a law put into place in 1996.
By
President
Clinton.
It's defined as it's a marriage between one man and one woman. So with that, it's actually Section 3 of DOMA, it's called. Because that law was still in place, the marriage wasn't recognized, so we knew somehow we had to find a way to try to make something work.
Right.
But we didn't know yet to that point because we wasn't forced into that position yet with the airport. I mean, the biggest thing was when you are from another country, Caroline being from England, you come on a visa waiver program.
Okay.
And it's for 90 days you're allowed to stay in the country at one time. But of course, we were traveling back and forth. The 90 days didn't work anymore.
The next thing is you have to get a different visa. So we say, okay, well, what sort of visa do we need to get? So then I needed to get a visitor's visa, which of course everything you've got to pay for. I had to go to London, to the US Embassy, which strangely Laurie wasn't allowed to come inside. But in New York, when you go to the English Embassy there, I could go in with Laurie. So it's like, even that was kind of strange. So I did get the visa for that, but then followed on from that, having got the visa, later another issue arrived. So, well, fine, you've got the 6-month visa, but you can stay 6 months, but then you need to stay away 6 months. But then what happens after that, which of course soon became a problem.
Now, were you ever forced to stay out? Or
No.
Did they always let you in?
They did let me in. It was different for different times, depending on
Who the person was?
Yes. If you had, and this is how you can see how laws are like that, is it depends who's on the front line, who's the one, if they don't agree with it.
Right.
Then
their
they'll
personal
be,
feeling.
Yes, and you could tell the difference. I'd be able to tell you'd have someone who felt bad. There'd be the times when sometimes they would feel bad and they'd think, well, yeah, this is the law and we've got to do what the law says.
Right.
But then they'd be a little bit fluid and try and be helpful to a point. But then mainly, obviously, it wasn't like that, and you'd get the arrogant people who would
Don't believe in it.
say, no, that's, I don't care about that, but the law says, and that was it. So, yeah.
So stressful.
Very.
So
and
stressful.
worrying every time I came in, my hands would be sweating and I'd feel, my heart would be racing. I think, am I going to get sent down? Am I going to get sent down? And will I be allowed in?
We always travel together.
Okay.
So, when you come into the international terminal, there's a non-citizen, citizen side.
Okay.
So we would mainly split, of course, because Caroline wasn't a citizen, so we'd split lines. We'd meet down by the luggage carousel. And then the first particular time where I was waiting for her to come down, there's no Caroline coming down. And I knew she had reached already, the desk. And she said, they want to question me.
Oh.
So already there's like a
Horrible
big
feeling.
red X, on the envelope. And you got to speak to the person. That was one particular time. Then I thought, well, now we're already married. Maybe if I join the non-citizen line with you, they can see you're not making anything up. It's a marriage. You know, we have, like Caroline says, our marriage license with us. They didn't care. We'd be at the desk and I'm like, hand me your passport. I'll go up to the front and I'll be friendly. And we don't, well, it doesn't matter if you're married, you're still spending too much time in the country. One particular thing, after my father ended up having his stroke, he was going to be moved into a nursing home, and mentally with it, verbally, he has a hard time communicating. And I said to Caroline, I can't go back to England with you.
Can't leave him.
She had to leave because her visa would have expired and she couldn't be here, you know, for that length of time. So I dropped her off at the airport. She was only going to be gone for a week. I go back to go pick her up and I'm waiting, and you know, this is status unknown. I'm waiting for her and I can see all different flights landing, passengers coming through, terrible. You know, the stewardess, everybody coming through, and still no Caroline. And then it was almost 3 hours later.
You were interrogated for 3 hours.
When she came through, I mean, she was in tears.
I couldn't even imagine.
Horrible.
And then we knew we have to do something about this.
Well, and that was the last time when they actually did say at that particular point, you won't be allowed back in again. And there was a choice to be made, because obviously I had my family still living in England. I needed to be able to go back. And then there was that choice that I had to make.
So they forced your hand at that point.
They did, and it was like, okay, so if you leave, we're not going to let you back in. So you've either got to go over the radar or under the radar and stay here illegally and just be a non-person, which I couldn't do.
Right.
Because I could never not be able to go back.
Right. And so what did you do? You went over the radar.
Well, before we even went over the radar, we go, well, maybe there's a different type of visa that we can get. Because, you know, we had a photography business. I mean, I was working in the medical field before I met Caroline. As you know, in the States, vacation time, they're not so lenient like they are in Europe, where you get 6 weeks off at a time. So I ended up, you know, starting a photography business, and we're thinking, well, putting a business plan, maybe she could come on a business visa.
No.
So, I mean, it was $6,000.
Oh, okay.
With immigration lawyers, and to get that news, you know, we were thrilled. Well, maybe this is going to be it. It was denied.
Oh.
And you lose all your money, and you don't get any of that back.
Of course not. You're paying for the service.
And then after we go, well, we need to speak, which we did speak to an immigration lawyer, and she said, you got to tell your story. Tell your story to anyone. And the first person we did was Glad Law. We spoke with Glad Law, and they featured us, and they said, get your story out to people. You know, right now, there's still nothing you can do until the law changes.
Now, how did you decide to make a film as one of your getting the story out there?
Well, that was something that came a lot later after I'd actually got my green card, and we just wanted to do something we'd been writing. That was something that we liked to do.
And you have a blog?
Yes, and I like to.
Post?
Yes, I like to do the writing and advocating. And then during this period of time where we were talking about going over the radar, we really got into advocating in a big way. And what we found was not only were we doing it for ourselves, but for all these other people. And that's what spurred us on, because all these messages we were getting from other LGBT saying thank you for standing up and fighting, because we were putting ourselves out there.
I'm not sure of how many people are familiar with the DOMA case itself. It's the United States versus Windsor.
Yeah, you can just give a brief synopsis.
And that was where this couple from New York, this lesbian couple, they had been together for over 35 years. Thea had passed away. They were married. They were in, New York. But because the federal government didn't recognize the marriage, they made her pay over $300,000 in inheritance tax on a house.
She wasn't considered a spouse or a relative or whatever.
So her case was taken all the way up to the Supreme Court.
That was amazing.
And the oral arguments for them were being heard in March of 2013.
Okay.
Which is what our story was featured in GLAAD, was then picked as one of the main stories to go to the Judiciary Committee, which was in support for actually bringing about that case.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's where that started.
Okay.
And then we were picked up by doing that by the UAFA, which is the Uniting American Families Act. And that's headed up by New York Congressman Jerry Nadler.
Okay.
And he picked up our story from us talking on Twitter, and he said, yes, we want to support you. So they did a big piece about us. And from there, it was that story that actually got to so many celebrities who then, you know, supported us. They were sending us messages. They wanted to show their
Tell us
support.
some of the names. People like to
We
hear
have
these.
Seinfeld's Jason Alexander.
yes.
So back in 2013, after him reading our article, he was already telling us, your story needs to be told. And we had Sharon Stone. We are featured in The Advocate. 2020, Elizabeth Vargas. We've had Sarah McLachlan.
Gina Davis, correct? Didn't she do something?
The Gina Davis Institute and her film festival.
Film festival, maybe for
That was for the film.
Knowing that, even though now that passed,
It did pass in June of 2013.
and then you were able to get your green
I
card.
was able to, because Laurie was able to sponsor me, and then in January 2014, I was able to get my green card.
And how long did that take?
That was about 6 months after.
And did you feel that that was going to be denied at any point? I mean, were you scared?
No, I wasn't really scared.
Well, but you hear
then.
all the stories. If you ever watch the film Green Card, where some people actually try to get into the country, so they just marry someone to bring someone in.
Right.
Well, we knew that wasn't the case.
No.
Who would?
You were well documented.
Who in their
That's
right
what we
mind
said.
would put up with all this for something that was fake?
Really?
There wouldn't be that much press about us if we weren't a real couple.
Right, exactly.
But we were told that we were going to be in separate rooms, and they were going to ask like questions about, and we had to make sure we knew, the right answers.
right.
Yeah,
It
we
was
had
not-
a long list of tests.
It was
Like what
nothing like
toothpaste or
that.
something?
Yeah, it was nothing like that.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad.
Even though DOMA was struck down federally,
It's
so
still state by state, right?
it was still state by state at that point.
Right, and then that passed.
June 26th of 2015. That's when it went nationwide marriage
in
equality
every state.
in every state.
Yeah.
But
So-
now, some are
Yes.
fighting it.
Well, this is the big thing: is after that passed last year, a lot of all the main big gay sites that you've seen build up towards getting it passed and helping towards promoting, just drop the ball. Because they think,
Oh,
it's
we're
all
home free.
done.
We're home
It's
free.
done. That's
You're never
it.
home free.
And then they said afterwards, because of that, all these states now have built up these campaigns to say, right, okay, well, we're going to slip this through, because you'd be surprised how many are actually still trying to. I think the total's 33 states, I believe.
It's that many?
Is trying
Yeah.
to bring different, not all the same as the big HB2, which is
Right.
the big
bad one, yeah.
North Carolina.
Right.
But different versions.
And happily, some celebrities and people have taken on, and businesses have
Yes.
taken a stand,
Yes.
and they're pulling their businesses
Yeah.
out or not doing their business.
and they're not
movies.
touring there
Yes.
and all that sort of thing.
Bruce Springsteen was one who pulled his.
Yes.
And Jimmy Buffett did play his concert, but then he wasn't going to go back unless they changed. He said he'd already sold out and he didn't want to disappoint the people, but.
And they have some celebrities that actually are doing the concerts there, but they're donating 100% of the money raised
Yes.
to a gay cause.
Yes, well, which is good.
Now,
we need to get to the film because we don't want to miss that. So we're going to take a peek at the clip, and then we'll get back to us and we'll discuss it.
You can see here you've been spending a lot of time in America. This visitor's visa that you have doesn't warrant the amount of time you've been spending here.
I'm not a criminal here.
So I see from your file this is the third time you've been sent down here. Do you know why that is?
Because I'm married to an American woman.
We can't approve your entry.
Officer, please.
There are laws, Ms. Hart.
If my wife could sponsor me, I would have a green card by now. She can't, because the federal government doesn't recognize our marriage. And it's Mrs. Hart.
You've been here the whole time. I could love.
So that was a great clip. Very nice.
Thank you.
Nice trailer.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about that. Who is producing it and who's in it? And tell me about the trailer.
Well, obviously, Laurie and I actually wrote it. It's based upon the worst part of our story. So the point when I was going to get denied actually coming into the country. We are lucky to have a fantastic team who picked up the story and they believed in it. They knew that they wanted to help make a difference and hope that the film will actually change some hearts and minds. So we're lucky to have Kate Carson as our director.
She's wonderful.
She is
She's
wonderful.
And she also portrays Laurie
That's
in
right.
the film.
Yes.
And she's done an absolutely amazing job, and we couldn't be happier with that. And then also we have Laura Putnam, who plays me.
You, right.
And she's
Another
done
wonderful
a
actor.
really great job, and with the accent she had to learn, and I would be, I'd tape my...
You were her coach.
Yes, and she'd be, listening to me, and she's really excellent job on that. And then also with Justin Place, he's Kate's other half.
Sensorium Pictures.
Yeah,
Yes,
together
from
they make
Sensorium.
up Sensorium Pictures, and we are super lucky to have them as our producer and editor.
I mean, there's so many people that we would love to,
know.
our DP,
Yes.
Joseph Laverly,
Another
he was
talented
wonderful.
individual, yes.
The first assistant, we had Richard Bailey,
Very talented
he was
as well.
there. We had all these wonderful people that we never knew.
And then your actors, you had
Yes.
J.P. Valente
Yep.
and Paul
fantastic.
Lussier, and who was the other gentleman that played the
Dan
customs?
Crowley.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you have great people involved in this.
Yeah,
and now
excellent.
you have the trailer, which was filmed at Logan, which is pretty
Well,
amazing.
We, and that came at a big price to have it done there.
Sure did.
Because, we were told, oh, you're not going to get, that's an international airport, and there's Massport and there's these officials. Well, Caroline and I just made some calls and we went to go meet with the officials.
Yeah.
And,
We knew them all.
And then we're thinking,
again.
we're thinking, well, they're going to ask, what is it about? And it's about how we were treated at the airport. So, we didn't want any place just to make it. We wanted it to be filmed.
it had to be
we
there.
met there.
It was very nice to
It
have
put
it
us
there.
through the hell there. So we have to have it filmed there.
It's pretty good, and not many people can get their films done there on the smaller scale.
It came with a big license fee, and then we had to get a $2 million liability insurance policy.
Yeah, yes.
But we
You
pulled
did
it off.
But it was exciting on the day of filming, actually, at the airport.
Emotional.
It was emotional because we were reliving something and seeing, Kate and Laura actually doing that scene.
It's very
was
touching.
Really, heart-wrenching for us. It was incredible, actually.
And the thing is, we're no actresses, but like Caroline said, we did write Status Unknown, but we still wanted a piece of us still in the film. So Laura and Kate, they wore our wedding bands. They wore our rings, so that was still a part,
That's nice.
So I was like crying.
Yeah, no, it's a lot to cry
crying.
about, and it's important that this comes out because the fight isn't over.
No,
The fight is not over. Like, people back
by
down because
far.
they thought it's not,
Yeah.
and you can see what's happening with individual
Yeah.
states.
And we've had, over the time, people are offensive. We put ourselves out there, and of course, you put yourself on social media, even with the best intentions. There's always someone out there who's ready with an attack, and we would get so many people with their, oh, you're going to go to hell, and all this sort of comments, and you think, great, okay.
Yeah.
But we always
I know.
think
It's
for
hard.
that 1 or 2 people that give us the backlash, we have 10 supporters.
Yes, yes.
And that's the thing, is without the supporters, we had
Right, you do.
WCB5,
Heather
Heather
Unruh,
Unruh,
yes.
she was wonderful. She's been a wonderful.
Yes.
Jack Hopper and Jorge Quiroga, they came to our house and did interviews on us.
Which I've seen, very
so
nice.
we love WCB5.
And you've gotten a ton of print too, newspapers left and right on your story.
Yeah.
And now the movie, the docudrama. Now it's a short currently,
Yes.
is that? And it's in
It
post-production.
is. Yep.
And the plan is to have a
Well,
longer film, or are you just trying to get this out
right
first?
now the plan is it's a teaser. It's
Okay.
a minute and 24 seconds,
Okay.
as seen how long it was, and it's usually an intention that you want to get interest. Well, because so many people knew our story, we've gotten a lot of interest in our teaser. I mean, so now
It's been shared a lot by the celebrities.
we have so many people.
Ellen Tube on Ellen DeGeneres.
Ellen too. So we have a lot of people telling us we want to see,
Yes, so many
we want to see
messages.
a feature film. We want to see. We want to know more about the story. So we're actually in development now of
Great.
writing a feature.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a lot of work, but it'd be worth it. I think
Oh,
it's
it'd
a
be
story
worth it.
that needs to be told. It
And
really is.
hopefully it can bring about some change in
Yes.
people's perception of everything to do with the LGBT, but also even women and women in film. It has that roll-on effect because, as you mentioned earlier about the Gina Davis, and they, shared it on the on Twitter and actually on Facebook as well. So, they are really pushing for all of that, and we say, if we can make a difference on any of those levels, it's worth it.
And
It is worth it.
Our
It is
big
worth it.
message in the film, I mean, some people might think, well, why are they telling the story now? It's already nationwide, marriage equality already happened. She's got her green card. That's not the point. The point is we want to show people what we went through, just because mainly that technically it was just because we were a lesbian couple.
Of course it was.
Because if I had married, like I said, a man, he would have had a green card. And it's to show anyone that's afraid to stand up for themselves. We fought. We didn't give up. We had to be strong. And we're hoping that might give, even if it gave only one person the courage to think, whether it's coming out from being gay.
Right.
I mean, there's so many, young kids that parents, you hear about as soon as they find out their child is gay, then they don't want anything to do with it. So we're hoping that it would give them some kind of encouragement.
I think it will. I know it will, and that's really important. It's still the battle. It's been fought, but we have to keep fighting it.
And on many levels too. We had a couple we'd just seen this last week, a lesbian couple planning their wedding, and when we talked to them about the process of getting married and about what's going to happen on their day, they weren't sure that the father was even going to go. So that's on a really personal level. So you can look at it as a country level, or a state level or whatever. But it comes down to it's the family and family acceptance, and and that's so important.
It is so important, and I cannot believe we're out of time. I knew we'd have more than to talk about than we could take in, but thank you ladies so much. And if you could tell people where they can reach you or follow you, or do you have anything that you could share with our audience?
Yes, I mean the biggest thing for us is we want all the exposure that we can get. Have anyone watch the teaser. So if they go to hearttoheartproductions.com, they can read more about our stories. Also, we're on Twitter at Heart to Heart Prods, and we also have Status Unknown, a Facebook page. So you can follow the film, any updates on the film.
That's
so
wonderful.
Go like our Facebook page.
Okay, that's great. And thank you again. This is a wonderful story that you're telling.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you.
Thank you from Entertainment Plus, and find us on Facebook.